Welcome back. In the last video, we created this data table and explored almost all the options in the data tab. Some options related to date range were left for the coming videos. Now we will explore the style tab. Style tab has options to control how the table will look. Although for color of the table, I usually do not use the style tab because usually the theme of the report covers that automatically. You'll see that when we set a theme for this report. But there are a lot of other options which are useful. Let's explore them in this video. The first option is conditional formatting. This is similar to filtering. The only difference is that records which meet the criteria, that is which meet the condition that we have set, will not be removed, but they will be highlighted as per our instruction. For example, using filtering, we removed US from this list. But if you want to highlight USA, you select the condition in the same way and then tell how to highlight the record which meets this criteria. So let's click on the add button. We will highlight USA using a single color. We will select the field to be highlighted. Select country, the condition equal to USA. And now select the color and style that you want to have for this particular criteria. We want for the entire row to be highlighted in light blue. So select the light blue color here and click on save. And here you can see that we have highlighted the entire row, which is the row for the country USA. Then is a section on table header. This strip, which has column names in the table, is called the table header. The options that you get in the style tab corresponding to it is whether you want to show this strip or not. So if you uncheck this, then the column headers will be gone. Wrap text allows you to show the hidden part of text by bringing it to the next row. So in case you have less space and your table is like this and you want to show the column headers, you can just take it and the column headers will be shown by taking the extra text to the next row. This icon is to change the color of the text. Right now it is black. We can select dark blue or any other color that you want. Let us change it back to black. This is to select the text size in pixels. So if you want a bigger text, you can select something like 18 pixels. And the next one is the font of the header text. We'll stay with Roboto. The next section is on table colors. You have 4 options here. First is for the color of the header row. Right now it is set to gray. If you want to change the header row color, then you can select the color here. Second is the color of cell borders. Right now the color is gray for cell borders also. You can change this to some other color if you want. The other 2 options are for odd rows and even row colors. In Excel also you can do this and it is known as banded table. This basically makes it easier to read wide tables. So if you add a light gray color to the odd rows, and if you have a very wide table, having such banded rows makes it easier to read the corresponding values in one particular row. Next section is on table labels, which is actually formatting the text in the table. So if you want to change the color, font or font size of the text in the table, you can do that here. Let's increase the font size also from 12 to 14. This section of table body has two options. First is whether you want to see row numbers. So the first column that you can see is of automatically generated row numbers, and since it is ticked, that is why we are getting this column. If you untick this, the automatically generated row numbers will be removed. But since the row numbers are giving us the ranking of the countries also, let us keep them. Wrap text option will show hidden text in the table by moving the extra text into a new row within the same cell. That is increasing the height of the cell. In the table footer, we have these pages. So this first page is showing 10 rows. Let us extend the table and see the first 10 rows. For the next 10 rows, we have this option of moving to the next 10 rows using these pagination options. If you uncheck this tick box which is saying show pagination, then the option of going to the next page will be removed from the table. So the viewer can no longer look at the other countries except the top 10 countries. We want to keep this option, so we'll keep this checkbox ticked. The option of compact pagination is to reduce the margin of this text with the lower border. So if you tick this, you will see a minor change in the distance between this pagination options and the lower border. It doesn't make much of a difference if you ask me. Then these three are the options for controlling the color of the footer or adding a footer border. Using these two options, you can add a footer border. You can see a red line, and if you make it dashed, it will be a dashed red line, which will be the footer border. Now this option is important. How do you want to show the missing values? That is the empty cells in your data. By default, it is at null. So any value which is blank in your data table will be shown as null. Other options include no data, 0, a dash, null, blank, etc. You can use anything, but be careful while using 0 because this can be misleading. Because a blank cell usually means that data is not available, whereas 0 means that the value is 0. So for example, if there is a blank value corresponding to a country, that will probably mean that we do not have data for that country. It does not mean that that particular country has 0 cases of COVID-19. The next option here is to control the alignment of the dimensions, that is the countries column. So right now it is set to left alignment. If you click on center alignment, the entire content of the dimensions will be moved to center alignment. Then we have metrics. The first option is how you want to see the metric, as a number or as a bar or as a heat map. Currently we are seeing numbers, but if you select bar, you will see something similar to a bar chart. If you select heat map, the cells will be highlighted with different shades of blue color basis the value in them. So larger value will have a darker shade and a lower value will have a lighter shade. If you remember, when we were adding a chart, there were three types of tables. We selected the first one. The second one was a table with a bar chart. This is the same table that we get when we choose to show bars instead of numbers in a simple table. And the third type of chart is a table with a heat map, and this is the same thing that we get when we choose to get a heat map in place of numbers. So even if you select any of these initially, you can change the type by choosing how to show the metric in the styling tab. This tick box of compact numbers is used to shorten the number. For example, 3000 will be written as 3K, 1 million will be written as 1M, etc. Decimal precision is to set the number of digits you want to see after the decimal point. By default, it is set to auto, which works for us. Now this section is to control the background color and the border of the table. I'll leave it to you to explore this part. And lastly, we have the option for chart header. Did you notice that there are these two small icons hanging on top of this chart? These icons are for optional metrics and more options regarding this table. These are part of the chart header. So the first drop down is whether you want to show these options always or only when you hover over the table or not at all. That can be selected in this drop down. The next icon can be used to color these options. This was long, but it was necessary because looks are important for a data visualization and you must know that you have a lot of control over it. Now let's click on the view button to see what the viewers will see. This is the view mode. Previous was the edit mode where we can make the changes. Here we can only view. Check everything works as expected. Clicking the pagination buttons should change the page. Hovering over the table should show the chart header. In the chart header, we have the choice to see the optional metrics. In the previous video, we set the optional metric of total recovered. If you tick this checkbox, the viewer can see the total recovered cases in each country also. In the more options, you have the option to sort the data or to download it. That's all. As part of session task, I want you to play around with all these styling options. And if you are able to create an interesting looking table, do share a screenshot with me in the discussion forum. See you in the next video.